I feel like this is just a message to everybody to be very conscious in what you digest. Just because it's on a list, top 10, here's your top 5 podcasts on Spotify, whatever it is, maybe take a little more time to search and look and consciously choose a show that resonates with you.
What does it look like to build a podcast network where compassion isn't just a tagline, but a through line shaping every decision? From who joins the network, to how shows are produced, to what kind of voices get amplified. And how does a leader actually operationalize elevated human connection so it's more than just talk? Terms like faith, neutral, spiritual thread, and making compassion a hard requirement for network culture are not actually common language. Most network talks about growth and scale. Few are as explicit about compassion as table stakes for who belongs and how you create. Our guest today is Amy Lynn Durham. Her story: she left the corporate executive role after a spiritual awakening, started a podcast guesting, and then became a host herself in 2021. She joined a network for a few years, and at the end of December 2025, she launched Magic Thread Media. It's a new network actively weaving compassion and spiritual intelligence into show selection, production, and expansion. I'm Greg Wasserman, the host of this podcast, Podcast Network Insights. I've spent 15 years in advertising sales, and since 2021, I've been immersed in the podcast industry. As I believe life is about time and relationships, you never know where one conversation may lead. And I've built a lot of relationships and spent a lot of time with every kind of podcaster, from solo creators just getting started to the heads of industries leading networks like my conversations today. If you've ever wondered whether joining a network makes sense, how these networks actually run, other networks you could be enjoying, advertising, partnering with, learning from, then my goal is to give you a real look behind the scenes so you can confidently navigate whether you host, produce, sponsor, or run a network. What's exciting about my conversation with Amy Lynn is literally she's new to starting her network. So you get a front row seat of someone who's got a vision, working on implementing that vision, and you get to come along from the ride. She's literally 6 months into this, depending on when you listen. So I can't wait to bring her back and have an understanding of where she goes from there. But before we jump into the conversation with Amy Lynn, I have to acknowledge and thank the companies that make this show possible. The show is produced by the incredible team at Stories and Strategies. If you don't know them, I suggest you reach out and learn what they do. I'm using RSS.com for my podcast hosting, as podcast hosting is more than just storage. RSS.com provides so many features to ensure a great podcast experience. Easy to use, maximum distribution, a community to learn from, monetization solutions, and so much more. Systems and processes are key for the consistency needed in podcasting, which is why I use Northflow. It's a dedicated podcast project management platform built by podcasters for podcasters. Turning these recordings into hundreds of pieces of content is why I use Cast Magic for my content repurposing, my guest assets, and so much more. Lastly, stay tuned after the interview as there's more to this conversation. And no, it's not to get you to subscribe to the show on your favorite platform and leave a review. Though let's be honest, if you're listening to this, you already know you should do that, and I appreciate that you do that. And nor is it to encourage you to sign up for my newsletter. As we talk about during this conversation, discovery for podcasts is hard. And that's why every Monday on my LinkedIn, I promote 3 podcasts that I think people should listen to. And then every month, give you a whole recap of those content. With that said, let's get into this conversation. Amy Lynn, welcome. The show is Podcast Network Insights. So the first question I always like to lead with is when you hear the words podcast network, what comes to mind?
Ooh, for me, it's a collection of conscious voices that's rippling out to the community because I right away think of my podcast network. The second thing I think of is I have learned that people have different ideas of what a podcast network is. So the minute you say that, I get this like hodgepodge of a space for people to collect and create amplify their voice and get sponsorship and marketing, or a community, or this or that. So lots of things flying through my head when you ask me that question.
And I mean, every person I've asked that question gives a different answer, which is great because it just goes to show how different everyone's operating their network. But what I loved is your original part of the answer was a conscious voices, which goes very much to probably you, what your network and what your entire media company is revolving around, right? So the specific word uses of conscious voices as opposed to, community or some of the other words that you used.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you want me to get right into it, Greg, I created Magic Thread Media because I was so overwhelmed with the amazing people that I was meeting while I was podcasting that I felt like there needed to be a space to elevate and amplify their voices. I was doing bonus mini series on my podcast to help with that. But it needed to be a bigger container. And somehow the universe sort of showed me the way. And we're a baby. I launched Magic Thread Media in December. It is beginning of May 2026 as we're chatting. And we are now live with 6 shows on the network and rapidly growing behind the scenes. So yeah.
Well, I mean, 6 months of a network, but if we actually go back, you didn't start in podcasting, you didn't start in radio. You come from a corporate world that ended up in the podcast space. So how did you end up in podcasting that decided you want to create a network in the first place?
Oh my gosh, wild, right? Like how wild is that? I used to work in retail. I was a corporate executive, and I operated 90 AT&T retail locations throughout the state of California. Left that job after I had a spiritual awakening and wanted to pursue this life purpose of bringing heart and human connection to the workplace. That was in 2019. I had someone reach out to me on LinkedIn, and this was before the bots were like pinging you all day with their sales navigator, not to drop shade on that. But this was like a genuine person, and his name was Jakob. And he had a company that was booking people on podcasts, and he was like, we want to book you as a guest on multiple shows. So I started hitting the guest circuit, talking about spiritual intelligence for leadership in the workplace. So I started out as a guest. I've probably guested, I don't even know how many podcasts I've guested on now. It's in the hundreds. And then I started my own podcast, Create Magic at Work, in September of 2021. And it has been running since then on a weekly basis. It's insane. I don't even know. Like COVID, time warp, I don't even know how we're in 2026 right now. But yeah, that led me to meeting all these amazing people. And then now I've started a network of conscious voices to really right now, some people say they feel like we're in dark times. And I feel like Magic Thread Media is like that golden thread that people can hang on to and listen to something that feels like they're connecting with someone else in a elevated human way.
There you go. Well, you said you, not only did you start the show, but you joined a network before you started your own network. So I have to imagine you're learning from what you weren't getting at your previous network before starting your own. So what is it that you have taken from the existing framework that you saw to also what you're adding to the current framework that you're building with Magic Media?
Yeah, great question. So even back to just having my own show for over 5 years now, I've worked with different podcast managers, different boutique agencies, and most recently the network that I was on before I started my own. One of the things that Magic Thread that I love with what I wanted to do was have that creative freedom. Like this is a space for creators. This is a space for the bridge builders and the change makers of the world and the outspoken misfits. So some of the things with a larger network that I felt a little stifled with was my creativity. I feel like podcasting is an art form. Going back and updating show notes, as simple as that, was something I wanted to have the control to do down the line. I didn't want the creators to be on a super rigid schedule with Magic Thread Media. If you turn in your recorded episode 14 days in advance, if not, we skip you. Like these little things that I feel like kind of trip up the people that are in that creative space. So we're very flexible right now. And I know when we talked outside of this, you're like, Amy, we're going to talk in 6 months and your network's going to probably be completely different than where it is today. But that's where it is today. Very creator friendly. The vibe, if you look at our network, hopefully you can feel the magic coming from it because there's a lot of heart behind it. Yeah.
But I mean, you joke, and we joked offline, but like, yeah, it's true. I mean, and that's part of the reason of this show is when I think about podcasters who join a network and they're hoping, a year, or they sign a year contract if there's a contract involved. Otherwise, some don't have a contract. But 6 months later, your business has evolved. If you're currently, I think we talked, you're currently focused more on the production side. How do I help the creators that are in the network? And part of the monetization for you as a network and the media company is the production. But your ultimate long-term goal is moving away from production. So someone that's joining you now, it's going to be like, all right, I'm expecting this today, but 6 months from now, you kind of have an idea, but who knows where the world kind of takes us, or your business, or the universe in that matter, right?
Yeah. I mean, I am right now the executive producer of Magic Thread Media. And what that means to me is I oversee all of the shows and the creative flow of what those are. We have a monthly mastermind where people can show up and share their ideas. We do everything that we can to help elevate the voices on the network in an organic, real way. So I don't know how that's going to evolve in the future, but my vision beyond the vision is live events. We have some other ideas with publications that we're working on behind the scenes. Of course, they have that artistic, magical flair that comes from Create Magic at Work. And then another part with the network is, gosh, I meet so many people just with my own podcast. And now it's amplified even more with the network that are amazing. Chills when you talk to them, that are really trying to do good work in the world and help people. And I'm constantly brainstorming resources on how we can create containers for that. For example, we have a resident voice and presence coach with the network now. So if I'm talking to someone that has this incredible idea, they can sharpen it that way. I mentioned my vision of the publishing, and this is old school. I read the news with podcasts and networks and all these things. And I think I read an article recently about one network that was launching 3,000 episodes a week utilizing AI. Let me give you the difference with Magic Thread Media. We have a show on the network called Circle's Edges. It's a late night radio show style, old school, as if when you were, well, I don't know how old you are.
And whoever's listening, we've got ages all across. Yeah.
You're probably way too young. But that voice in the night on the radio that you could listen to that just helped you not feel alone. Dr. Aaron Tobacco is the host. There's solos that he writes ahead of time. I mean, we are putting out, we're almost like the middle finger to AI. And that's not to say we don't use some of these technological tools with the network to, transcripts, to create social clips, all of these things. But we want to hold on to our humanity and create that connection. And so same thing with the book visions that are coming out. They're going to be art pieces, hard copy. We're kind of just putting up our middle finger to all of this in that way. And it seems to be resonating.
And that goes to like you're literally evolving the way you want your network based on what you want, but also where you've come from. So if I'm a podcaster who's thinking about joining a network, you've seen it, having done it solo, having done it as part of a network, and now creating your own. What question should I be thinking about asking to understand, is this the right network for me?
Yeah. Good question. A lot of people are asking me that question now that I'm running Magic Thread Media. Interestingly enough. And I'm discovering a lot of people have really interesting views on what a network is. And I'm like, no, that's not what this is. So things they should be looking for depends on what you want your outcome to be. If you're looking for community, and that's something that's important to you, then I would ask questions surrounding that. If you're looking strictly for monetization and how do I say this? Just really, really large numbers, then maybe you should ask some questions about that. If you're looking for a network that has similar integrity and values that you have, and their themes are sort of aligned with what your show is, then ask some questions surrounding that. One thing that is really important to me with Magic Thread Media was the technology. I personally felt a lot of people that, and this was just my opinion and my idea of what a network is or was, is that you should have the technology. You should be using a platform that is a true network technology, right? I mean, that's the basis to me. That's the foundation. Like, let's start there with that. So we're all connected in this constellation and we're lifting each other up with the using the technology to cross promote. Then you also have community. Then you also have production support. And then you also have these other expansion pathways like we have at Magic Thread Media. That's my idea of a podcast network.
And I love how you answered it going, if you're interested in community, then ask questions about that. But think about, most people don't even know what questions to ask. So I think that you gave a good framework of, hey, you can have community. That could be something you're interested in. You may not know, because like, let's be honest, most podcasters are probably thinking, how do I make money with my podcast? And therefore they're looking at a network as a monetization engine, as opposed to, as you just pointed out, no, there are these other functions that a network can have that you should be asking these questions. And then as you lay it out, are those important to you? At least find out if that is something that's valuable and go from there, right? And I think you did a great job. And then where you've pivoted and where you're now taking your network and all the different functions that you're looking at on how you're creating this.
Yeah. I do talk to some people that have independent shows, and they, to me, I might be totally going off the I'm just going to say it, Greg, okay? Sometimes I talk
That's what we're here for.
Okay, so sometimes I talk to people and I love their show. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you would be a great fit with Magic Thread Media. Would love to talk to you about being part of the network. And in my mind, I'm like, how is this, of course I'm biased, but I'm like, this is a no-brainer. Like, oh my gosh, the minute you move over, boom, listens go up. You're part of this amazing magical community. Your show has the same vibe. Can't believe it. And sometimes the response I'm getting is, oh, I've been part of a network before and it was terrible and I didn't like it. And I'm like, what's not to like with this? Like, I don't get it. Like, you have your own, at least with Magic Thread Media, right? Because I'm a baby, so I don't know about a lot of these horror stories, but you have your own independent show and you're part of the network. And so you automatically get amplification with that. So I don't know what's happened and why people have food poisoning from the past with some of these network experiences, but I am running into that. I'm also running into people feeling like their brand is big enough standalone and they don't want to be part of a network. And I do a ton of research. I offer podcast strategy sessions. I can literally look at a podcast and I can see immediately what they're missing, what they can add, where they can get more amplification, like literally, right? And some of these individuals or shows that are okay being standalone brands, I'm like, oh gosh, please, I can just see all of this right now. But I know your ranking, and I know, how we can get more ears on your amazing show, and they just are like, no, I feel like I'm a big enough brand on my own. And that, that's okay. That's okay. I can't want it more than someone else. But that intrigues me. I don't know. And because, Greg, you and I talked offline a couple of times, I'm a spiritual intelligence coach. So there's that ego versus higher self, right? And so I'm like, okay, I want people in the network that are really operating from higher self, that place within them that comes from wisdom, compassion, and love. And I digress. But it's interesting out there talking to people with networks because, Stephen Bartlett, he has millions and millions of views, Diary of a CEO, and he's part of a network. His flight story. I mean, that he was my inspiration when I started Magic Thread Media. I saw Flight Story on Apple Podcasts. I saw the channel. I was like, wait, what's this? I clicked on it. I saw his other shows. I'm like, oh my gosh. And then it just all sort of rippled out from there.
I mean, we go back to your horror stories, and I think the biggest thing that I've seen from my side is the expectations, right? And why I had a horror story is if it was my first network that I was joining, I had the wrong expectations of what it could be. Or you go back to our joking about the business changing in 6 months, the fact that, great, as soon as you start the network, I'm going to cross promo you. You're going to see these increases. But then what happens in 6 months from now? There's either no shows, the network's not growing. Like, how is the network helping you after the first initial hump when you've been promised this continuation or this view that you're going to continue to get the network effect? So you end up having, especially, come a year later, a podcaster saying, well, they sold me early on, but then I'm not getting anyone selling me anymore. Either you're no longer the shiny new toy, you're not grinding so that you're growing your audience, you're not making it easy for advertisers, so their sales team's not making it easy for you, or you're not making it easy for them to sell. So there's so many different reasons why a show that joins a network could have these quote unquote horror stories. And flip side, you being the network operator, why you left left a network to join your own, or I should say create your own, because you saw there was something different. There was something that you wanted more aligned, more of your own, more creative freedom. So I've seen both sides. I've heard both sides, but that gives you a little context of why the hesitation. You're like, why are you not seeing the joy of this? And now that becomes how you go about selling the network, quote unquote, selling to someone who's in those shoes.
Yeah.
Does that resonate at all?
Totally. What's coming up for me as you're sharing that is I really try to be conscious about not over-promising anything. In fact, I came from a pretty strong sales background. And I'm such
sell that phone, right? Yeah.
I'm such a different person than I was back then also. But I really like to under-promise what might occur. So then when things happen, they're sort of delightful, For example, we just dropped a batch drop of episodes for one of our shows called Finding Treasures in the Trash. And I put out a press release for it, but didn't say anything to the host until it went public. And then it's sort of just a delightful, it's not like I promised they're going to get all these press releases for being part of the network. So that's like a fun surprise in a morning text. That's just sort of that added bonus as far as me making all these promises and losing integrity if they don't come through. That's sort of the
I'll
way
run
I'm.
on that thread. What
Yeah.
do I get by joining the network? What is it that do I have to pay to join the network? Is it just a cost of doing business in terms of having you as the production? So the cost of joining is the production side. And then what are the resources that you're giving? You mentioned community, you mentioned tech, but like, how does that all come together within Magic Threads?
Oh my gosh, it's as you said, it's constantly evolving. But right now, I have the signature production lane. Those are shows that are fully produced by Magic Thread Media. Edited, audio engineered, social media creation, all of the things put out to all the platforms. Then I have another lane that if people just want to join the network, we don't touch the show as far as production goes, but they live in our ecosystem. All of those shows are part of our monthly mastermind. All of those hosts can join our monthly mastermind. Signature Productions get an hour a month of meeting with me as the executive producer and our production team. And every single show has communication, and we use Slack right now in our Slack channels with production. So there's a lot. I'm finding Magic Thread Media is attracting a lot of creatives. So there's a lot of creative conversation in the Slack channels about look, feel, tone, more than I've ever seen in my podcasting life. But hopefully the listener gets to feel a little bit of those goosebumps and chills and the magic that comes from that. The other, I'm playing with other ways to help people get their voice out there. So, I have some exciting things to come where we're going to be airing certain mini-series like in the network feed. So if you don't want to do the heavy lifting of starting your own show, I have some really cool things coming up. I spoke with someone the other day. They had recorded like 3 episodes, but they were so in line with Magic Thread Media, but like not for a full show. So now I'm opening up a lane where we can drop them straight up into the network feed. So I'm trying to just create space for these voices. And we also run mini-series on our long-lasting existing shows that have a big catalog of episodes. In fact, TEDx is doing an event on play, which is a huge part of our Edgewalker philosophy, which is playfulness. And so we're running a mini-series through the network called TEDx Play for TEDx coming up. So that was exciting. So I'm trying to find ways to get everyone's voice out to help elevate us, kind of create that ripple effect in the world.
So it's a standard cross promo, but also let's figure out other ways we can grow and other avenues we can look at. And then you add in the live events, you add in these book productions. So from a business standpoint, the person that's joining your network is who? Am I someone who's just looking for the monetization and gets sponsors, and you guys are helping from a sponsor standpoint? Am I looking at, I want that book deal, I'm looking for speaking engagement? Like, talk to me, who was attracted and why is that person being attracted besides the values to the network?
Yeah, right away, all 3 of those things, I would be like, none of the above. Isn't that funny? Kind of weird.
No,
huh?
that's
I
not
know.
at all.
If you're looking for sponsorship and monetization, we're not the place right now. I mean, we're the place if you have this calling, if you have this like special message that you feel needs to be amplified in the world, we're here to help produce it and help guide you through it. And then once you create a catalog of episodes, that's where right now, and I know you told me I'm going to change in a while, but that's where right now we are starting to see monetization organically come in. So if you wanted to join my network, it would really be because you wanted to be a part of this movement of thought leadership, healing the world, conscious voices elevating each other, the middle finger to like the AI slop, all of those things, like holding on to our humanity, one of the themes with Create Magic at Work is quantum leadership. And that's my show. But it's from a philosopher and a physicist. Her name's Dana Zohar. And she talks about the quantum leader and how the quantum leader creates this ripple effect in the world. So the quantum leader makes business decisions not only for profit, for employees, for shareholders, for self, but for communities, for the planet, and for humanity as a whole. And so that's the vibe of Magic Thread Media. So I see lots of shows that are a fit for Magic Thread Media. And then if you're looking for amplification, I'm not going to guarantee it, but every time someone's joined, they've gotten it so far. So we have case studies, but yeah.
And I think that goes back to like the horror story. It's like, all right, once you've joined, you see the spike, and it's like, what is it that Magic Thread Media is doing to keep those spikes going consistently for that creator as opposed to the initial, right?
Yeah. And it's interesting you're asking me that, because I've never felt like that was my stake in the ground, like, oh, we're responsible for these spikes for you. I don't feel that. I just work behind the scenes organically to get more eyes on your show. And yeah, I've never really like guaranteed that to somebody. And interestingly enough, the people that I talk to, at least that are attracted to Magic Thread Media, and this wasn't something I planned or anything, but they really like the mastermind vibe. Like they hone in on that right away. And that was just sort of something I baked into the whole thing. People are asking me internationally, like, that's really like what I want. I need to be in a group of people. So back to what I was saying in the beginning, I'm trying to have all points of what I feel a network is, so it's all there for everyone.
So if you're listening, you're trying to understand what questions it goes back to. What questions should I be asking to think about joining a network? And I think the big piece I'm getting away from not just you, but others, it's values. Do your values align? If technically, you joined one network and then created this. So technically I could say, well, my values are more aligned with that original network that you were part of, as opposed to what Amy Lynn's doing with this new one. And hey, if that's the case, then that's the better place for them to go find their people per se, right? Community monetization, as you said, you're not in it for the ad reads and monetization of this tendered sponsorships, but you are helping your creators find ways to make money for their businesses.
Yeah. And now that you're saying that, I think there's a more, dare I say, elegant way that we are monetizing that maybe isn't tracked with advertising dollars. Because a lot of the creators on Magic Thread Media are maybe looking for clients, and maybe they're a higher ticket client. Maybe they're looking for networking opportunities. So right now, I might change. You should interview me in a few months to see maybe we're going to be running ads all over the place. But right now, it's more of this high-level connector vibe. For example, the mini-series that I do on Create Magic at Work, one that's coming up is on creativity called the Spark Sessions. That is from a creator of an app called Musy, where you can resource your creativity. We're not like dropping an ad every episode of my show, but we're doing this like curated set of episodes around creativity. And that feels more elegant and impactful. And that's a monetization lane that we use. So
thinking outside of the box, which is, if anyone's listening that runs a network, like listen to what Amy Lynn's doing to think outside of the box for those on the network, but also just in general, probably for what you would want to be doing and have been doing with your own show.
Yeah, and the new monetization lane for the network is that channel I'm talking about, where if somebody has, this 3-episode miniseries, there's not really a show we're going to create, but we'll be able to drop it into our network feed and get some ears on that too, if they just want to put out a 3-episodes miniseries or something like that. So that's another way that we're monetizing. And the creators sometimes do their own, hey, I'm doing a retreat, come join me. And so there is monetization there, but it's not just running a pre-recorded ad right now. So
yeah,
full transparency.
The feed, I mean, this is it's becoming more common in the conversations I'm having, but it's still, I don't know, maybe 20% of those that I've talked to are leveraging what you're describing as the sampler feed. Episode 1, I spoke with Peter Ferroli from the Pantheon network, and he's been doing that. And that was the one thing he said, if I were to start a network today, I would still be doing the sampler feed in a way to drive all of your shows into one place. But with the goal, of course, is bringing them all to their own individual feeds, but giving you, hey, here's the Magic Thread network feed, and here's not only every show that we've got here, but every little mini series. Anything you would want, you can discover, because as we know, discovery is incredibly difficult. So if you can do something to help the shows on there with some other form of discovery, there you go.
That was my first check the box to do. I mean, that's a network to me, right? Like, I think of the TV networks, it's like NBC or whatever channels we watch and the shows that are on that channel. So I'm like, yeah, we have to have our own channel, quote unquote channel, with everything running. I mean, we've got Spotify, we've got Apple, we've got the Apple channel, we've got the Apple RSS feed, and we've got Spotify, we've got those are all live. And that was an immediate to do, in my opinion.
I'll take that. You just used the network piece, but from a TV standpoint, I look at other networks I've spoken to that operate as a media company. Where have you thought about Magic Threads Media as a media company, and what does that mean?
Yeah, that's a good question. There's probably different definitions everybody has for that too, right? Well, I mean, Magic Thread Media, I feel like, is a media company because we're doing the full production for most of the shows, and we are doing video as well. We're doing video to YouTube. We're playing with video on Spotify right now, and I know we're inundated, those of us in the industry, with video right now. All the updates on video to Apple and all of these things. So we're definitely playing with that. The other part of being a media company, to me, is the live events and the publishing arm. That's the vision beyond the vision, and just combining all of that. Also, live recordings is a big future vision of mine as well. And those live events will be able to help with that. So
do you think that's a value that networks bring that are underutilized, that you're looking at? How do I do this? Take your previous network. I don't think they did live events. You're looking at that as a key piece. So how do networks do live events? How do they bring live events for the network, and what's the network effect on that?
Yeah, I can share my vision for what.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I see it as this live thought leadership event where each host speaks, and they share. Maybe they interview a guest if they're a guest interviewer, but if they have this very strong vision, they can share in sort of a keynote style or even interactive with the audience, and that's in a session. And then when that breaks, it's like, hey, you can get their inspirational quote book here and have them sign it at the table when they leave. I mean, I have these grand visions right now, but I've got everything ready to bring it to reality, to manifest it to reality. I just need to continue to grow the network, and we'll get there. We do have a resident director of publishing right now who's amazing. So we have everything in place. Yeah.
So I think that's like anyone that's listening, whether you are a fellow network operator or a podcast, the questions to ask the network that you may be looking at is back to community and values, but also what are the other extensions? And then as a network operator, I mean, I'm a big partnership person. That's my background. I'm a connector at heart. So I'm always thinking like, all right, as a network operator, as you said, you've got a publishing arm, you've got this live events. So is the network, whether they're operating that way, are they connecting you to those opportunities? Or is the network, its core piece, we're just here for the monetization and everything else you're doing on yourself. And that becomes, what is it you're looking for in a network, which you laid out so perfectly.
Yeah. And I think that's what's really interesting in the podcast world. It's kind of crazy. Like, it's kind of all over the place, right? I mean, I've been doing it for a long time, and I didn't start a podcast to get a bunch of listeners and run a bunch of ads, but I did start one for my business development. But I had a passion for something that I was sharing. And the relationships that I've made through podcasting have been incredible, like irreplaceable. It certainly is this high level way of connecting and networking that is completely different than outside of that. So if you are looking for community, something like Magic Thread Media our hosts are incredibly supportive, right? And we have the monthly mastermind. And somebody like me with the network who is an executive producer who constantly is looking for creative expansion pathways for you, that could be really nice for someone that feels like they're kind of soloing it.
My philosophy is, podcasting is the greatest relationship engine that fuels your know, like, and trust, that drives a content flywheel. But at the core of that is in a sense, a talking head show, as we're doing here, which would be a lot of your podcasters as well, whether they're solo or they're bringing on a guest. Where do you see journalistic, or if we go back to the TV channel and the network there, it's like, all right, they've got their reality TV shows, but they also have their animation, they have their sitcoms. So where do you see the different varieties of shows being able to find whether a place at your network or being at another network?
Yeah, well, it would definitely have to be along that thread of conscious voices. I mean, every show on Magic Thread Media has a faith-neutral, spiritual thread running through it, no matter the topic. So I guess if you're asking me where does somebody find their home, is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, you could look at, could it be a fiction show that still, has the spirituality? Like, are the only shows that would be a fit for it would be, an interview-based or solo-based show? Or could it be someone who's produced a 8-part, highly journalistic show, but still aligns value-wise with you? But it's like 8 episodes, I'm done, and I got to go and do the next one, or that's all it was?
All of the above. All of the above. I've heard networks interviews on your show, and it was so intriguing because I know that certain network operators create a network around a specific niche, like the healthcare industry or relationships or, whatever it is. That wasn't my vision for Magic Thread Media. My vision for Magic Thread Media was I wanted diverse categories with this thread of conscious thought leadership. And just it's organically that faith neutral spiritual intelligence is sort of in all of the episodes. So yeah, we're working on, interestingly enough, behind the scenes, we're working on it's not a running show. It's going to be a seasonal drop, batch drop, and it's a relationship show. But it's with a very conscious therapist that is planning on interviewing couples at the brink and helping them decide to stay or go. But stewarding the humanity in that is really important to me. But yeah, I'm looking for diverse categories.
downloads matter?
I mean, I'm not going to lie. Heck yeah, they do. Because we're not doing all of this work behind the scenes for nothing. We want people to hear and feel a shift when they're listening. However, long-term listeners that continue to come back matter. And it depends on the show and what's it about for me.
So, I mean, if downloads don't matter from a monetization sponsorship standpoint, it's more a matter, and think about it from anyone. It's like, what are your goals? In your case, it's you want downloads because you can reach more people and change lives or impact lives, and less about you're doing it for how do I get a sponsor or how do I sell advertising space?
Yeah. I think the monetization strategy that we're using right now feels very aligned. But downloads matter. But I was thinking, because I'm always reading industry stuff. And I was reading that advertisers are looking more at long-term followers versus like these huge downloads now. And I was like, that feels so Magic Thread Media, right? Like we could drop something and get like 1 million views or 1 million downloads on a 3-minute episode. But then if nobody stays and listens or follows the shows, that doesn't mean as much to me as the 1,000 followers that tune in to Circle's Edges every week that are writing personal letters, to Aaron and like, this changed my life. Like, it's so cool. So that's kind of where we're at.
It's I could fill a room with 1,000 people, but how many of those 1,000 people are staying after the opening remarks and like, you know what? This isn't great. And they decide to walk away. And so by the end of your show, you're like, I got 20 people out of 1,000. Like, all right, I'd rather just have had those 20 people in a room to listen to me as opposed to the 1,000 that showed up and inflated my ego, but then made me feel bad when they all left, right?
Yeah, the meaningful connections versus the surface. Yeah.
Since you've written books, you've got a whole program, and we look at the people within your network, what's one book you would recommend to people that they should be checking out?
Well, I already recommended The Quantum Leader, but that's not in the network. And all of our active publications are not published yet. We just started in September. They're behind the scenes. I don't want to recommend my own book because that seems super like... But how about this? There's 2...
Recommend your book. We'll put it in the show notes. There you go.
Okay, but let me recommend a tool. How's that? So rather than a book, we also, and this is also what we publish card decks. So I'll recommend one of the newer card decks that we just published is the Edgewalker card deck. It's super magical. And there's some podcast episodes on the Edgewalker card deck. There's 5 skills and 5 qualities of an Edgewalker. And Edgewalker is how you respond to change. It's an archetype of change. So you look to the future with creative, positive visualization. The skills and qualities are like manifesting, visioning, connecting, playfulness, like all of the things that can really, I think, elevate a podcast network. And so the Edgewalker card deck, I think, is what I would recommend because it's educational and magical. It has the 5 skills and the 5 qualities, the definitions, amazing graphics, and amazing affirmations authored by Dr. Judy Neal. So, yeah. In fact, I started the network pulling a card from the Edgewalker card deck. I wish I had it laying here with me. And the card that came up was passion. I was like, should I really be doing this? And I closed my eyes, shuffled the Edgewalker deck, and passion. I got passion, and I was like, I have to do this. So
there you go. The universe said so.
Yeah.
But I think you bring up something, and I'm glad you did bring up the cards and as opposed to a book, because when we talked previously, you'd mentioned how cheap and easy it is to get these cards made. And that is, if we think about just as a podcaster, that's an opportunity they should be thinking about and monetizing their existing content. Or as a network, how do you come together and create something from a network standpoint? Just another extension, another opportunity that you're able to go ahead and whether it's a network deck So then you're running ads across the whole network and everyone gets a cut of that, or it's just the individual show doing their own promo. There's other ways to think about it. So I love what Magic Threads is thinking about in terms of being the media company, but all these different ancillary revenue opportunities outside of just sponsorships and ads.
Yeah, and to your point of listeners and downloads, I do recognize that some listeners we might not have a lot of listeners with like real long form episodes. And so we are playing with, at least, and I'm starting on my show with what I'm calling magic microdoses. And so I'm doing these 2 to 3 minute card pulls where you can tune in and just hear a message, an uplifting message. And then hopefully that'll intrigue people to listen to the longer episodes. So we are playing around with that at the network too, using our tools that we've published. Yeah.
Once again, every network's doing something differently. You've pulled from some in your background, and some things you're like, I wish I had this. And that's the joys is every network can look at how they do this. And I have to imagine you're doing this with a very small team. So once again, it doesn't take a large team or a big community to actually make a network operate in the way that you're doing it.
I have an amazing team. Yeah. I just am really, really grateful that this has appeared and that I answered the call, and I'm excited to be on the ride for sure. Yeah.
How large of a team or what does it take to run a network? And then as you're at 6 shows, how do you have to scale as you add more shows to it?
Yeah. I have a full production team. So I have a producer, and then the producer has 4 to 5 people that work for him. And then he's the main point of contact in our Slack distribution channel. So that's what we're working with right now. And it seems to be doing okay. What was that second part of your question?
So as you grow the network, you're at 6 shows, so you're going to have to add in more producers. But you also talked about the network's not just production. If you want to join the network, I don't think you said, is there a cost to join the network if I don't want to go down the production?
There is, yeah. To be part of the network, there is a monthly cost for sure. And oftentimes, we start with a strategy session with me, and I might make some requests for changes before you join the network, but they're all in your best interest. For an example, we have a show that's part of the network collective. So it's not a signature production. We're not producing it, but because she likes to record live, unedited, her tagline for her show is Live in the Hive. It's Sandra Bargman, The Edge of Every Day. And so when she was going to transfer over to the network, I was like, we need to redo your cover. You need to record a trailer. Like, we need to amplify this, that, the other. There were certain things that I requested to move to the network, but they were all in her best interest. She had a 3,000% increase the minute she transferred over. And this is a show that's been running since 2021. And I was like, there's different creative ideas I have for each show, but Sandra in particular is so striking and so bold. I'm like, how do you not have your picture on your podcast cover? Like, we need this immediately. So we went into production and changed it all up. And here she is on the network with like an over 3,000% lift the minute she moved over. Incredible.
And once again, a reminder to every podcaster that's listening, how important your packaging, your titles, descriptions, like the minimal, viable product you need to put out there is probably what you're working with right now. But a little update is going to make a huge difference in just what people want to take off the shelf, what people want to listen to, and how they discover you.
Yeah, it's kind of like, yeah, you're so right. In some ways, that's kind of unfortunate, right? Because if somebody's so amazing and has this incredible show, but they don't have the right look or the right title, then they might not be found. So instead of being sad about that, I try to look at it as this like beautiful art creative piece that we can elevate for you.
Think about how many cult classic films didn't do well in the box office, but we all love them 30 years later and we're all quoting them. And that's kind of the same thing to look about as a podcast. It's like, all right, it was poorly marketed. It was a great concept. And all you have to do is just do little updates for it. So I think what you're doing on the network side is you're really pushing your creators to make some of those changes and have that control, which is something I think other network operators could look at. It's like, all right, do I just take this show as is and it fits in certain boxes that I've got checked? Or is there something I could offer this this creator, this podcaster, and going, hey, for you to be successful, I'd really recommend you do X, Y, and Z, and this is going to make it, we're going to be a better fit that way, and I'll take you because of that.
Absolutely. And you don't have to take my recommendations, right? But I see a lot of, and I could be wrong at times, but I haven't seen something go wrong yet, but I'm still a baby. So I'll let you know the things I did wrong when we meet up in a few months, maybe.
One of my last fire questions I love is, we've talked books, podcast discovery is difficult. So what's one podcast you would recommend to people that probably more people should be listening to?
Oh, gosh. I can't say this. I know I already said this show a lot, and I know it sounds biased because it's on the network, but it is Circle's Edges. I have not seen a show like this, and maybe there is, but the way it's curated, the way Aaron curates it, it's a late night radio style show, like old school, like it reminds me of how we like to collect albums now, you know, like just something about that feel. And he has music underlying him speaking to calm your nervous system. And it's just like this healing thing to listen to before you go to bed at night. So I highly recommend Circle's Edges. He talks about many different circles that we experience in our life and the edges that we encounter with them. And can't recommend it enough.
Well, hopefully you're not listening to this late at night. I've never heard my voice being the one that puts someone to sleep, but there you go. That show is one you should be listening to as you calm down and think about things at night.
For sure.
Last couple of questions that come to mind. You're 6 months into this journey. We're recording this in May of 2026. Where do you see the future of podcasting?
Oh, gosh. It's too much.
The question or the future?
Yeah, I think it's, a lot of people feel like it's saturated. And that it's getting more and more saturated. And I see all the jokes like, oh, please, nobody please start a podcast. You know, those memes that fly around social media. But I just dropped some statistics in our All Magic Thread Media Slack channel compared to books published. And the ratio was so small. Like I can't remember the exact numbers I posted, but you know, there's room for everyone's voice. I'm just like there's some crummy books out there. I'm sure there's some crummy podcasts that you might not want to listen to, but I think out there's some amazing creators that if you want to start a podcast, go for it. So I think there's the future of podcasting is evolving, but I think there's space for all of us. And that's why I created Magic Thread Media, because I knew that we needed a space for these types of voices. And I wanted to have a container for that. So there's room for all of us. That would be my answer.
There you go. And that's why I asked the question, not only about podcasts and books, for the exact reason you did, the comparison. Mm-hmm. Most people are like, oh, there's too many podcasts, but no one complains about too many books. No one even complains there's too many Instagram or TikTok accounts out there, and everyone's got 5 or whatever it may be. And there's so I don't understand why we complain if there's too many voices, whether it's a solo voice, whether it's a interview in this regards, whether it's a documentary that's only audio. I mean, I stare at a screen. We're staring at a screen right now. I'm technically staring at 3 screens. I got my phone and it's TV and a laptop, right? I'm on this for like 11 hours a day. The joys of a podcast is you actually get to just turn off the video and listen. So I know video is the big piece. This show is on Apple Video, so you can watch it if we want it. But I'm a big fan of the fact like there's a voice, there's content, there's something to be said that you can find your people. It's just a matter of finding those people. That's the hardest piece, the discovery piece.
Yeah, you know what's interesting to me? Our resident publishing director, Michelle Fishering, she and I did an episode a while back, and it was called Best Seller or Best Payer. And I was very passionate about talking about how people pay to be on the bestseller list. And some people don't, and they make when we're talking books, some people truly make the bestseller list, but the majority have some sort of financial backing in order to somehow land on the bestseller list. And so to our point, and to my point in our conversation with whether it's podcasting, books, I feel like this is just a message to everybody to be very conscious in what you digest. Just because it's on a list, top 10, here's your top 5 podcasts on Spotify, whatever it is, maybe take a little more time to search and look and consciously choose a show that resonates with you. And if you love it, and if it changes something within you, share it with a friend and leave that creator or host a review, because they put a lot of heart and time into something like this, at least the creators at Magic Thread Media. So that's what I would say to all of that.
I think on that note, Amy Lynn, I think you started unconscious, you end unconscious. I think this is a perfect way to end this conversation and all the things that we kind of discussed around the network, podcasters, and Magic Thread Media. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, Greg. Thanks for having me. It was so fun to talk about this, and I appreciate you. And thank you for creating this podcast.
Thanks a lot. Well, you made it this far and really appreciate it. I truly do. I mean, let's be honest. Most of us don't make it to the end of the podcast. So if you've made it this far, as I said at the beginning, allow me to give you my thoughts on my conversation with Amy Lynn. Coming back to the beginning, one thing you should have noticed that I did right away is how compassion is built into everything Amy Lynn does with Magic Thread Media. It's not a tagline. It shows up in the way she talks about creating space for conscious voices and how she curates the network and the patience she brings to both creators and their growth. Some other things that stood out to me was first, how Amy Lynn split the network into very distinct tracks. There's the signature production lane where a team produces everything for the show. And then the network lane, where some shows just exist as part of the ecosystem. They join the masterminds, but handle their own production. That flexibility isn't how most networks operate. Usually, you're all in or you're all out. This approach means a podcaster could tap into the community or go all in with the full support production. Second thing, I didn't expect the level of creative control she preserves for the shows. Everything down to being able to update your own show notes or drop in mini-series into the main network feed. Most networks have hard rules, rigid schedules, processes that look a lot like traditional media. Whereas Amy Lynn made it clearer, creative freedom isn't a plateaued on her end. It's something operationalized into the bones of how her network functions. Third thing, what surprised me was her approach to monetization. Now, I know she's 6 months into it, but right now, sponsorships aren't a selling point. It's not the ad reads or the download first orientation. The entire network is almost optimized for the slow build, thought leadership, organic reach, even physical products like her card decks, and very high touch relationship-driven opportunities. And the last thing that stood out to me is the way publishing and live events are already baked into the DNA of Magic Thread Media. She's just not using podcasting to get more ears, but as a launch pad for books, live recordings, experiences. Some podcasters look at those bolt-on ways down the line. She's looking at them as the offer from the start. That changes how you look at the upside of being in a network. Maybe it isn't listeners. Maybe it's the platform for something bigger. Those are a few of the takeaways. I know there were so many more notes that I have, and hopefully you did as well. Once again, thanks for tuning in. To the few people who did leave me the 5-star review on Apple, I appreciate it. The DMs I've been getting have made everything worthwhile, and that means that these conversations are actually adding to the ecosystem of podcasting that I want them to. As I say, life is about time and relationships. You have no clue where one conversation is going to take you. This is why I'm able to have this show and provide you these great conversations. This is why I love networking. You have no clue where listening to these conversations will take you now or in the future, but I know your future self will thank you for tuning in. I live on LinkedIn. Reach out. Let's talk. To those, like I said, that already have done so, I appreciate you. It means this value of the show is having exactly the conversations I want to. As we talked about, I have a newsletter because podcast discovery is difficult. So go ahead. You'll find it on my LinkedIn as well. Lastly, subscribe where you listen. New episodes come out every Thursday, wherever you find your podcast. Until next time, I appreciate you.